I saw Poppy on the screen this morning, paused it right away, so I have no idea what she does or what the cards do today, but I have seen the spoilers for the other 2 days, and we'll go ahead and go through those as well, so let's go ahead and watch the video. I put it on mute just because, well, yeah. Well, I'm putting it on mute. I missed what it said. I put it on mute because there's been like copyright claims before. Attack grant me and my allies with equal or less power than me +1/+1. I've attacked with the allies 3 times. And she's Demacian. Okay. Huh. That seems, it's grant too. Oh, okay. That's, yeah, and you're Demacia, so you have like sharp sight and stuff? Okay. Seems like it could be decent. Grant ally +1 health. Teemo. And even the bench sitters also get it. That's also important that you don't even have to attack with stuff. That's pretty good, I think. I mean, she has okay stats from the start. Pick an ally or an enemy. Ally and enemy to do what though? Oh, it's strike. It's like single combat, but a strike. It's like concerted, but one. Yordle Ranger. Scout. 6 mana, 5/5. Decent. Grant me and my allies with equal or less power than me +1 health. I don't know how good that is. Like, to me, Genevieve is just a lot better. Even though, because you don't really care about the health so much. There's probably some cases that you do, though, I suppose, but Genevieve just seems better. Okay. Yeah, Poppy is about what I would expect for Demacia, just giving more beefy units more beef, essentially. Ooh, double attack. Give that thing elusive. See if there's any other sneaky changes on these. Probably not. These are videos usually made earlier, I believe. So it looks like Demacia is getting some more combat tricks. Yordle Smith, we'll get to read that soon. Capture. Detain. Poppy level up. That throw to the ground. Pretty cool. Ooh. New keyword, impact. Okay, we saw this keyword earlier. When this strikes while attacking, it deals 1 to the enemy nexus. This keyword can't stack. Attack, grant me and my allies with equal or less power than me +2/+2 and impact. That is a pretty strong level up, I would say. She doesn't seem like she'd be that hard to level up. I mean, you've built this big board and then you're just attacking with 3 allies. Like, I feel like she could level up on 4 and 5 pretty consistently, but I mean, that depends how many trades you're making. And there's the impacts as well. Oh, they're gonna... Alright, so these were all the cards I showed through. That's a nice addition. I like that. Alright. So... we got this. Go ahead and read them here. Attack, grant me and my allies. Yeah, we've read that part. And then the impact. So this was 6, and this is place an enemy unit on top of the enemy deck, create a Poppy. It looked like it was striking it. Or something that was striking. Maybe it wasn't this though. Place an enemy unit on the top of the enemy deck. That's pretty bad. It does hit champions though. But this is like just so much worse than Vengeance, but you have to remember it's in Demacia and Bandlewood, so that does make a difference, but it's also slow. And if this was fast, it'd be so much better, but as a slow, you're just, like, this is when you play in like a dire situation. You're not going to want to play this, especially when there is a decent amount of draw in the game. Not a ton, but enough. 4 mana, 4/3, attacked with 3 allies. Alright. The next thing, we saw this. I think it's just worse than Genevieve, but it does have Bandle. So Genevieve would be Demacia, but in Bandlewoods, maybe it changes. I'm not sure. It does say grant though, so it's a 6 mana 5/6. with no challenger. Actually, that changes the things. Because Genevieve is temporarily +1/+1, but this is Grant. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Yordle, Demacia, double attack. It's 3 mana? Heck no. It's a no from me. It's a no from me. I thought this thing was going to be like 1 mana or something. Oh my gosh. Nope. Yordle, only Bandlewoods. Yordle Smith, give all allies with equal or less power than me quick attack this round. That is really equal or less power. Ooh. So it's good with Fleet Feather Tracker would be the big thing, but I feel like this isn't going to be ran in Demacia Bandlewood that much, because I don't think Demacia Bandlewood's going to be played that often. I think it'll be Poppy as Demacia, if that's the case. I mean, I'm trying to think, Shin Jarvan, does Poppy replace either of those? I don't know. Stress defense, set unit stats to 1/6 this round. Interesting. It says a unit. That means it hits champions. That's a big deal, actually. If it was a follower, it would be terrible. It'd be so bad. But since it hits champions, 1/6. Huh. It's hard to say because 6 is just a lot of health, and I don't really know if you're going to be able to take care of that. So I'm going to say I don't expect it to be great, especially it's Bandlewood that has this, and we haven't really seen units in Bandlewood that can punish that hard. Heroic charge, an ally strikes an enemy. If it survives, stun it. Oh, that's pretty cool. So it's like single combat one way or concerted one way, and if it doesn't kill it, it stuns it. It is a slow though. I do think it's for Bandlewood, so we can't really compare it to Demacia, but it's interesting. Yordle Squire, create a tiny spear or tiny shield in hand. Aw, so I guess you get to pick because, you know, that's what Runeterra does, which was really nice. Tiny Spear is 1 attack and Tiny Shield is 1 health. This seems really good for Bandlewood. I mean, I can... Teemo, mushrooms, like Peddler. These are helpful for that. This is really... I think this is a pretty nice 1-drop. This is one of the better 1-drops in the game right now. This is sweet. And also, yeah, sorry guys, I am hurting right now. So I can't really be as excited as I usually am, and yeah, sad, but I am very excited about the Bandlewood cards, and I want to go ahead and go over the other ones that we haven't talked about, or at least that I haven't talked about. So let's go ahead and go to that. I'll just go to this just because I think it's a bit easier. I talked about these on Twitter, so if you don't follow me on Twitter, go ahead and do that if you do want to see opinions earlier, since I'm mostly going to be doing reveals when there's champions or when it's just crazy like puff cap cards like there were earlier. So we got this new keyword called, or not keyword, but type of card called prank. And what prank is, I'm actually going to hop out here real quick, and let's go ahead and go here. Where is it? Yes, right here. So we're talking about some answers to the questions on prank. Pranks apply only to the cards that you pick, not all copies of it. It's the card that you can pick the same card multiple times, stacking the debuffs, and pranks try to hit the hand first and then the deck. That is a huge one that is very important, because if you're picking 1 card out of like 30 in the deck, the chance of your opponent hitting it gets much lower. But if it's prioritizing the hand, that's much different. What does this try to hit the hand first? I'm interested to see what that actually is. Obviously, if there's 3 champions in hand and that's the only card, it's not going to hit those because prank doesn't hit champions, it only hits the followers or the spells. So that might be why it says try to hit the hand first. I'm interested to see like how often this does or doesn't happen. Your opponent can see which card of theirs was pranked and with what debuff. So that's important. It'd be really annoying if your card got pranked and you play it and then it hits the board and you're like, what the heck? Now I lose the game. So that is very important as well. And then you can't attack with you can't prank units with attack below 0, important to know. You also cannot prank cards cost play or above playability. 10 mana for units and landmarks, 13 mana for spells. So like if you have War Mother's Call and they cannot prank it to being too much mana to, 14 mana because that's above the 13 mana cap, which is nice. That'd be really frustrating if you could. And then there is some of the list of the pranks. You can add 2 cost to it for the units, take away 2 power, take away 1 power and make it where it can't block, and take away 1 power and make it where it grant vulnerable. And then spells and landmarks plus 2 cost. So that's very helpful before we talk about this. So we have a more limited, well, we know like the range, like it's a limited range, which I like that design. I definitely like that design where it wouldn't be like, randomly like, oh, -5 attack to something. Like that's way too high rolly and not very fun. So that's important to mention. There is the Trinket Trade as a burst manifest and Otterpuss, or one of the spells from your regions that cost 3 or less. So manifest is kind of like if you played Hearthstone, it's kind of like the discover mechanic where it's going to show you 3 options. It's it's kind of like Invoke, except not, because Invoke was a pool of 9 cards that you always got, or how many ever there were more than that. There's 9 in the 3 or less, but Invoke is different, where Manifest is, it can be a lot more broad for sure. So this is Shell Game. Refill your spell mana, give an ally elusive plus 1/1 this round. It is elusive this round. To me, I think this is not very good because I would just play Ghost most of the times in comparison. Obviously they're in different regions, but when you look at Ghost, you play it for 1 mana. This is giving you a +1/+1 and refilling spell mana, but dang, if you have to use the unit mana for this, which sometimes you'll have to, it does not feel good. But maybe it will surprise me. Maybe the decks end up using more spell mana than we expect, and it ends up being more decent than I expect. It definitely could see play. I don't know though. The 5 makes me hesitant because you have to wait longer in the game to do so, and you just have to allocate 5 mana. That's a lot of mana, but you do get the spell mana back. Tricksy Tentacles. Fast, your opponent discards their lowest cost card. So we all have, that weak, Hunt the Weak card, the card that I've tried to play Karma with for a long time, and usually once you get to turn 10, they have run out of units most of the time, or they just have champions left or spells left. So this one, I can do that a bit easier with Karma, but the reality is, when I played it, at least, a lot of people had decked themselves, or like had like 1 card already, but this I think just is too random on what it hits. I mean, you're more or less just saying, this card, alright, this card actually reads, you and your opponent both discard a card. That is what it reads. Your opponent's card is the lowest cost card, and yours may or may not be the lowest cost card. But this reads, you and your opponent, excuse me, both discard a card. And when you hear it that way, it doesn't sound near as good, because I know people look at this, they're like, oh, I can discard their lowest cost card. It could be really good, could be really bad. It's enough that it's going to annoy you sometimes when it does happen, but I don't see this being competitive, but I do see it being some good meme stuff, so you'll definitely see me play it for sure. Alright, we have this Yordle that is Bandlewood and Bilgewater. Shark Trainer, also too, I must say, I love the flavor of Bilgewater. I think these cards are they have so much life in them, and I love that. Shark Trainer is a 7 mana 6/6 with Tune. When allies attack, spend 1 spell mana to summon the attacking Short Tooth, and Short Tooth is a 1 mana 4/2 with Overwhelm. The issue with this is that 7 mana is just too late in the game. This concept is super cool, and Short Tooth is super, super cute. I love him. I love Gloomtooth. You probably notice I use that as a pet pretty often. But this just, hits the board a bit too late, but it's such a cool design, and I love it in that regards. I think it's a really cool design, but I just think it's going to be too slow. Otterpus, 1 mana, 1/1, a tune, and when I'm summoned, create a prank in hand. I think this card will actually be pretty decent. I think being able to prank right away is pretty good. You have a chump blocker. A 1 mana 1/1 doesn't feel the greatest, but you know, it's kind of like Omen Hawk. It does give the attune even if you don't use the prank, but I feel like in most cases you will. And being able to potentially hurt your opponent's next turn play is, especially, you know, against aggro and other, you know, other cards that want to get on the board early. This is really frustrating for them to play against. That is one of my hesitancies with prank. I do worry that the cards will be very one-sided, which, you know, there's a lot of cards like that, but I feel like prank and hand disruption can be a really unfun mechanic. I think there's ways to do it. I don't believe like, hand disruption just shouldn't exist. I don't believe it's inherently bad and shouldn't exist, but I do think you have to be really, really careful with how you go about it. Right now, I don't really see like any like major red flags looking at it. It kind of depends on how often it is too. I mean, we saw Nab when Nab was played everywhere. Players were, you know, they loved it. Was a love-hate. When you Nab, it feels so much fun. When you're against Nab, it feels awful. But I think Nab is actually really good for the game design-wise, but that's a talk for another time, because I know a lot of people would disagree with that. But who knows? Prank, I'll know when I see it. That's all I have to really say about it as far as my full opinion on it. Like, I'm very hesitant on it right now, but who knows, it might be great, I might end up loving it, or it might feel awful. I think part of it depends on how frequently you see it and how strong it is. If it's very strong and frequent, I think you'll see a ton of complaints on it. If it's not that strong, then you might still see a ton of complaints on it. That's just how it goes. I mean, regardless, you're going to see a lot of complaints on a mechanic like this, whether it's strong or not. That's just how it goes, but hopefully the players will enjoy it, so always rooting for that. 2 mana, Kelp Maidens, elusive, Nexus Strike, create a prank in hand. I mean, it's a 2 mana, 2/1 elusive. 2 mana attack elusive. Bandlewood, though, don't know that's going to be good enough. I feel like this would be fine, though. I mean, if you're playing a prank deck, you're definitely playing that card. That is your main generator, for sure. Concholologist. Yordle, 2 mana, 2/2. Play manifest a spell from your regions that cost 2 or less. I really like cards like this. Like I said, very similar to the Discover mechanic of Hearthstone if you've played Hearthstone. Very, very similar. But it is a 3 or less. Like, if you played Hearthstone, this would be like, discover a spell from your regions. But that would be it. You would, like, randomly just be like, oh, here's a Ruination. Oh, here's a Vengeance. Oh, here's a Feel the Rush. Like, you know, depending what you're playing with it, of course. But, like, that would how Hearthstone would work, but the fact that they keep it to 3 or less is very smart, and I like this card a lot for that reason. I think it's very well designed. Alright, I don't even know how to say this, like, Benemone. 4 mana, 4/3, when I'm summoned, create 2 pranks in hand. This is Chump Wump of pranks. It is. It is just the Chump Wump of prank cards, and I kind of love it. I really want to play this with Chump Wump and Puffcap Peddler and just like a Teemo Bandlewood deck, and I'm just pranking everything and putting mushrooms in everything. I think that's everyone's kind of dream right now, and it'll be fun. So maybe it will continue to be fun. I don't know. It could be something that just ends up irritating people too, but I don't think the deck is going to be, as of now, Bandlewood doesn't have really great control tools, so I'm not worried about it. If Bandlewood had really great control tools, I'd be really worried about how strong a deck like this could be. But at the time, Bandlewood hasn't had those control tools, and it probably won't for like 3 expansions or something. Who knows? Because it is 3 more expansions, but yeah. Prank. Pick 1 or 2 non-champion cards in the enemy's hand or deck and prank it. We've talked about this a lot. That is the whole idea of these cards. There really aren't that many prank cards, so I don't think it's going to be an issue at the time. I'd be more worried otherwise, though. So on to, this was previous reveals. Battle Bonds, slow, grant 2 allies, +2/+2, just too slow. It's really just too slow to not really do much and very easily counterable, and 4 mana. No, just not gonna play it. It is the 1 mana Demacia card that was grant +1/+1. It's just, it feels like just like a filler card, but maybe it's not. But yeah, it is. There is a Furious Fae Folk, new eggplants. Let's go. Quick attack. When I summon, if you've dealt damage to the enemy nexus 4+ times, grant me impact 4 times. Once again, I'm just not very big on 7 mana cards that aren't just like immediately impacting the board. Having to attack to get value just isn't ideal, especially in the current meta. Maybe like anything that has 5 health, yeah, oh, looks like your thing dies and you're in PNZ Bandlewood. Like, that's not very helpful. I mean, if you could do PNZ Ionia, it would be much better. So there's a chance that you could do that. But still, I don't see it happening. There's better ways to end games, even though the impact going off 4 times does sound pretty cool. There is the Fae, the Hungry Wild, or Owlcat. I love this art, it makes me laugh, and it's a token, it's a 1 mana 2/1 spell shield. It's a token that comes from these guys, the Babbling Balladeers. Their art is just a little bit weird to me. I wish it had like a little like more hard lines on it, because it's kind of hard to see them. When I'm summoned, create the Hungry Owlcat in hand, 3 mana 2/4. This stat line is not a good stat line, especially when you're not even a challenger. Like, you've played Lorient, Proteage, a 3 mana 2/4. Sometimes it feels really good if you're against something with 1 or 2 health, or attack and health. But other than that, it feels really bad. Like, they played Elise and you played Lorient Proteage or something like that. It's the same thing with these guys. Not being able to block Fearsome is a 3 mana card, and not being elusive or any other keyword is a pretty big detriment, and the Owlcat unfortunately doesn't make up for it. If this thing had elusive, maybe it could, but with Spell Shield, it just doesn't do that much. Alright, this card though, Loping Telescope, play Manifest a random celestial card that costs 3 or less, epic, or multi-region follower. This card is so hard to know how I feel about it. I think it could be really strong, but it depends on how it works. I don't know if it says if it's manifesting a random celestial, a random epic, and a random multi-region follower, or if it says manifest a 3 or less cost Targon, invoke card, a epic card, or region follower, and then you pick one of those. So let's say I pick epic, and then it shows me 3 epics. My assumption is it's one of each card type, but it could be different, just because the way that manifest reads. I think this card is going to be played in Targon, PNZ, Vi, obviously Catastrophe. Maybe it's also played in Bandle Tree decks as well. At least that's where I would be playing it. I do think I will play. Oh, I mean, I'll play this card for sure. I think this card's really freaking cool. As far as competitive play, if Targon comes back, maybe it sees competitive play. It really depends on how it works, and I don't know. It's one of those cards that you don't really know what the pool looks like that well until you play it and you start getting a feel for it. It's hard to really imagine it so much. There's the Bandle Commando. Elusive, 2 mana, 1/2. Next strike, you create the Owlcat. And 2 mana, 1/2. If Elusive and Bandle would get played, that would be a thing. I still just don't think the Hungry Owlcat is enough. It needs another keyword besides Spell Shield, and that would just be insane for a 1-cost card, even as a token. Spell Shield's okay, but like Elusive would just be so much better, but I'm okay with saying less elusive, so don't worry about it. Hidden Pathways Burst costs 2 or less if you've earned 2+ cards this game, or if you've created 2+ cards this game, draw 2. Very easy to make this a 3 mana draw 2, so very good. I mean, it's Bandlewood draw. The 3 mana draw 2 is very, very good. So I don't think creating cards will be much difficulty at all. This is super easy to activate. Treasure Trash, this card I'm so excited for. Fill your hand with random cards. they cost 0 and are fleeting. You can play 3 more cards this round. I am going to be playing this with stress testing 100%. There's no getting me away from it. I will be doing that, and I'm so excited. Like, to me, the fun part of playing the treasure trove is getting the random cards in your hand and being able to play whatever you want for 0. You get to do that without all the hard work of treasure trove, which is awesome. This is a late game finisher, perhaps. Like, it is, and that's a really interesting way to do a late game finisher, but I'm so excited to try this card. And it just say you can only play 3 more cards this round, so you can play, like, if you have 13 mana, you can maybe play like a Mystic Shot or something beforehand, or whatever you're doing, something tiny, and then play this. And only 3 more cards this round. If one of them would have to be stress testing, so you'd play 2 cards, and then you'd play stress testing, unless you somehow had a fleeting stress testing. I would assume it would discard first, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. It's hard to say. But 2 of the cards would be normal, and then 1 would be the stress testing, and then you'd have a bunch of 0 cost cards for the following turn, which would be super sweet. Arena Kingpin, a 3 mana 4/2 Noxus Bandlewood with quick attack. I think this is good. Noxus needed 3 mana cards, especially fairly aggressive ones. I mean, it has Draven, don't get me wrong, but in cards that you don't, or things that you don't want to play Draven, or even, gosh, I guess you couldn't really, you could play Draven Riven, things where you can just give it Overwhelm and boost the attack and stuff like that. It just seems like it's going to find a home somewhere. I don't know where, and maybe it doesn't end up finding a home. I mean, an Auction Riven, I mean, like, I could just see myself playing this card. It seems like it would have a home there somewhere. Auction Riven with this does seem like it would be pretty solid. Shrima and Noxus. The Stone Stackers has tough and impact. I think this card's really freaking good. I think it might even be getting underrated, because I've always thought the 2 mana 2 cost with tough guy from Demacia was very strong and a little bit underrated in some metas, especially ones that have like Make It Rain and stuff. And impact as well is quite nice, but these things are just so annoying to remove with the 2 mana tough on turn 2. You just don't have many options at all unless you get extra attacks in. So I think this card is pretty decent. Proto-Poro, impact 1 mana 1/1, and it is a Freljord. The first new Freljord Poro besides only Poro, so that is interesting to see for sure. We got lots of Poro support with the Poro Sled. Attack, summon, and attacking random 1 cost Poro. Poros only had up to the Mighty Poro at 3 costs before, and of course it had the Heart of Fluff too, but this right here, this is so nice. A 5 mana 5/5 Poro. It is great, and it will find a home in a lot of Poro decks for sure. Poro's got a nice little buff. They needed it. Because I mean, they're close. They're real close. Yordle Swole Scout. When I'm summoned, if you've added 2 cards to your hand this round, grant me 1 own lose. I think I've gone over these. Wow. Yeah, I've already gone over these. So if you want to see that, go check out my previous videos. I'm still so excited for Bandle Tree. I think this card's super cool, and I'm very excited for Treasure Trash. I'm excited for this Sloping Telescope too. I think it's also a very neat concept. Interesting to see how Prank does. I'll, be holding my breath. I think it's going to be fine though. If there's a lot more Prank cards though, I'll be worried. When I say a lot more, I mean like a lot more. Because even like Nab felt overwhelming at times. And I don't want it to feel like the way that Nab used to feel. 2 mana Pilfer Goods was so disgusting, especially a double black market merchant that just was so swingy for the game. So hopefully Prank's not too swingy. When I say swingy, I mean if you're playing like 1 card that has an insane impact on the game, that makes it where the game has been determined at that point. Where if you played 2 black market merchants and Pilfer Goods, you had so many reduced cost cards that your board would be overwhelming and there's really nothing your opponent could do about it. That's what I mean by swingy. So if like Prank is so good that it makes it where like a bunch of your opponent's cards are unplayable and you're just there pranking them over and over again, fun for you, I get it, but wouldn't be very good game design. So I'm sure the game designers have looked over that over and over to make sure that that isn't the case. So I think it will be okay, and that's all I have to review for now. Thanks for watching. We got Poppy, and she's about what I expect for Demacia. Pretty nice though. Will help out token style decks too, potentially. I would like to see tokens in LOR, but it's really hard with the board space. Zero really is the closest thing to it. Well, thanks for watching everyone. Bye!